Hi, welcome to this video. My name is Brian Seweya, and I appreciate having you here. So, if you watched the video before this one, you will see that this is just a continuation of the previous one. So that's why I don't have like a long intro to this video. So I'm just gonna, get into what I came here to talk about. So, what sort of like inspired this video? So I've been, having this topic that I've always wanted to explore, and it is about my current view of what we call God, right? But then upon thinking, okay, I don't think upon is the correct, no, yeah, I don't think that's the word to use here. But after just sitting and thinking long and hard about this topic and just looking at the notes that I had, um, the notes that I had for this video that I wanted to do, where I was talking about my current understanding of God. Um, I don't know. I just thought that this information is widely available. The So in the previous video, I spoke about channels, or people that channel higher or beings from higher dimensions, and there's a lot of information on who and what God is. We have a lot of information from people that have had near-death experiences. People that have an experience of leaving their bodies. Be it some, luckily have that experience maybe while they're sleeping or while, you know, so because for most people that have near-death experiences, it's those that have just had an accident or something tragic just happened, or something traumatic or something, and then they leave their bodies for like a short while, and then they experience themselves leaving their bodies, and then they see themselves, or they experience themselves separate, or separated from their bodies, their physical bodies, and then they find themselves in this um, um, field of, or not even field, but in this realm that's different from the one that we are living in right now. So, and then there are a lot of people that that have experienced astral projections. So this is when you basically leave your body. So there is a lot of information that is available today, on the internet and just like all over the place, about. I might make a video where I give you, I recommend the channels and the so YouTube channels and sources that you can use to find these people that I'm talking, or these um also people that have had these near death experiences, and people who are able to astral project, and the channels, so people that channel us. So the ones that I have been exposed to, and the ones that I learned most of what I know from. So yeah, my thing was, there's a lot of information about who and what this being called God is, right? So a part of me didn't, it just didn't feel right for me to, already talk about something that is being spoken of all over the world. And obviously there's nothing wrong with that. It just didn't feel right for me to do it. So I thought maybe let me just use a different angle to approach the same topic. So as I was thinking about that, something came to mind, and I thought maybe there's something I could talk about. So for those that have been watching my videos, you will see that I'm sure you've noticed that I've been talking mainly about, so because I was a Christian and I was a devout Christian, so, and that was my journey, and I had a journey out of religion, but I still live in a religious society. Um, so meaning that to this day, so it's been 4 years since I have been out of religion, but it hasn't been an easy journey, mainly because I live in a religious society, and also because I've been a people pleaser my whole life, and I'm an empath also, and I also have social anxiety. So these things have sort of like affected how I experience a lot of, or they have affected, or they've had an impact on my spiritual journey. In that I usually rely a lot on what the majority think for me to go with something. So it's usually really hard for me to, carve out my own path and walk boldly in that. So it's usually, so say for instance, I have a personal experience. I usually need like an external validation for me to be like, oh no, so the personal experience that I have can be trusted, instead of me trusting in my own power, in my own individuality, in my own enoughness as, as an individual, or as a human being, for me to trust that the experiences that I have are enough. And not to say that it's bad to, try and see if there are other people out there in the world that are having the same experiences as you, or people that have a better understanding of the experiences that you've had. But to say that your own experiences are enough, and finding a way to trust in your own experiences. So so now that I'm no longer a Christian, and that I don't believe in most, of the Christian concepts, or in what most Christians believe in, such as, God. I don't believe in God the same way that Christians do. So the previous videos I was talking about how my view of Jesus has changed over time. And I was talking about my new understanding of who I believe Jesus is now, like who I view him as, compared to then when I was, a religious person and when I was Christian. So my view of God now is no longer of, the how you see how he's described in the Bible. So he's described, he's attributed, or he's, yeah, I don't know if that's the word to use, but he's attributed, a lot of human traits and qualities. So if you read throughout the Old Testament, so the Bible is divided into the Old and the New Testament. So the Old Testament, you would hate this God being, or this God person, because he is cruel. He does the most cruel things. And then coming to the New Testament, he has changed, but not so much. So basically, what the main thing that he's done to change, or the one thing that changes his character in the New Testament, is that he sent his one and only Son, who, from heaven, and then he took a human form. So he basically sacrificed, like physically, literally sacrificed his own Son for all of humanity, and that's what the Bible says. And that still, in my understanding, doesn't make him any better, because there was still, a human was still sacrificed. The fact that you are a God and you are the creator of all, could just wipe, that, because it says that this sacrifice was to pay for the sins of the world. Could you just not? They sinned against you. So this is you sacrificing your own Son, sort of like for yourself. I don't know. And you are God. You're the creator of all. So if there's any rule that was broken here, you could just change the rules, because you are the creator of all. So this God in the Bible, is very human-like. And so ever since I have been out of religion, my experiences of God have mostly been personal. And so how I understand God now is not because I read in some book that God is like this and that, but it was mostly through personal experiences, and also experiences that I came with from my Christian journey, or from my religious journey. And even from the Bible itself. So I don't believe that the Bible is entirely wrong. I believe there's a lot of truth in the Bible. So I think one, just has to find that balance for themselves, as to what applies to them, and what doesn't, and what they, see and resonate with as the truth or not. I don't know if that makes sense. So for instance, there's a day, when I was still a Christian, when I was still in church, we were praying at a stadium in preparation of a conference, that was happening at our church. It was a huge one. So we're praying, and people were praying in tongues and all of that. I was also praying in tongues. I was super loud, but something in me quieted me. So it's sort of like, it didn't, vocally say keep quiet, but it told me to keep quiet. And then I just, I was kneeling there and I just kept quiet. I stopped praying and I was just silent. And after a while of being silent, I I had a vision. So it was like more like a movie that was playing in my head, of how as we were praying, um, there was sort of like a dark cloud in the air or in the sky, covering this whole area. And as we were praying, there was the cloud on top was dark, and then as we were praying, our prayers were sort of like white clouds that were um, replacing the dark cloud. So they were sort of like putting out the dark cloud. So the more prayers went up, the more this dark cloud was, like being eaten away, if that's a proper way of saying it. So for me, that was a personal experience. That's not something. I mean, I'm sure I can find a similar story in the Bible of someone experiencing something similar to that, but that's not something I read about. That's something I experienced personally. And that's an experience that I went out of Christianity with. So my point with this is that even as a Christian, there's a lot of, so generally with me, and this is something I always told people, whenever I was preaching or whenever I was, sharing information with my disciples or my cell brothers, was my life is very practical. So the things that I say to you are things that I've either experienced or I just have I don't want to say an innate understanding of, but something that I resonate with, from the inside or on the inside, yeah, or from the inside. So I don't just want to give you information from a book. I want to give you things that feel true to me and things that I connect with on some level. So that was how I operated as a Christian. So that's why I believe there's a lot of experiences that I had that were, with the true God. And I'm saying the true God because it's not the God that's spoken of in the Bible, but this, I believe, is who God is, and I believe there's a lot of Christians and people from other religions that experience God. And I believe I don't want to say there's one God, but so maybe let me just explain my understanding of God so that it makes sense, as I continue, just sharing my experiences. So my understanding of God is that God is a force. God is I don't want to say spirit because spirit sort of like mystifies it. God is an energy. So science tells us that everything that is physical has an electromagnetic force or field around it. Everything that is physical. So the things that we call unalive, oh no, not unalive, but non-living. The things that we call non-living also have this electromagnetic field around them. Obviously, as well as every living thing. But what's interesting is, even so with me, I have humans also have that around them. But what's interesting is that even when you go further, like into the human anatomy, you find that even cells have electromagnetic field around them. Just it's not even a fun fact, but just something that I read in a book by this guy who's he's a scientist, and you've probably so I think he's the author of and Bruce, is it Bruce Lipton? I forgot, but the name will come to me. So he also wrote in his book that so they did research of cancer patients and all of that, but they were using mice to so mice that had signs of cancer. I know those that already had cancer, and then they did like a whole experiment to track um, it was, yeah, so to track the energy, the energy field of, so they determined the what the or they determined that cancer cells had an electromagnetic field around them. But one thing they discovered was that even before it actually manifests, um, the so the energy basically comes before the physical manifestation, and that's how they sort of like concluded that the energy that they found that the energy of cancer is there before the cancer arrives. You understand? So the energy precedes, the physical manifestation. Basically, if you want to change, um, the cancer, it is to change its electro or its energetic component, if that's a proper way of putting it. So they, yeah, basically determine that everything that exists or everything that is physical first existed as energy, you know. So they discovered that, those mice that later developed cancer had that energetic field, that cancer energetic field, way before the cancer manifested. So I thought that was, powerful. But it also links to the story, of creation in the Bible. It says the Spirit was roaming over the waters, and then a word was spoken. And when a word was spoken over the Spirit that was hovering, and then creation was formed. And this is me. This is by no means a way of, saying that I believe, that's how creation occurred. No, I'm not saying that. Um, but I'm just saying, there's a connection here, and I think it's a beautiful one. So I think I'm all over the place. I'm just trying to, track back my story. So yeah, so as I was saying, my understanding of God is that God is an energy. So everything has energy. So do I believe that God is the energy that is found in everything? So everything that is physical, is that God? And my answer is yes. Um, I don't, believe that God is a person. I think it's very presumptuous of us as humans, to think that the creator of all would choose to, you know, um, or that the creator of all of creation would, you know, only represent one of the species that he created or that it created. I mean, there are all sorts of species of, animals and plants, and and we're not the only. I mean, we're only focusing on planet Earth now. There are like other planets and probably other, universes and, galaxies and whatnot. And we think the creator of all these things would decide to be human, to be like us. So I think that was really just a way of us using our human nature to try and understand um, who we are, what we are, and what made all of this, like what created all that we see around us and ourselves. Why are we here? What brought us here? What's going on? So I really understand why we attributed, or why we gave human traits to the creator of all. So yeah, so I think God, or I believe, and I think I understand that God is an energy that is in all, um, an energy that is the creator of all that has been created. Um, and this energy is one and the same as, love. Believe that love is the essence of this energy, this energy of God, and that intelligence is one and the same as this energy that I'm talking about. So yeah, so I believe that it is in all, it is all, and it is the creator of all. So if everything that has been created comes from energy, then that energy must have been the creator um, of all, you know, and we have always understood God to be the creator of all. But then one aspect I want to, you know, just add to this is, you know, how this energy um, is um, is intelligence. So there was once a time when I was sitting at a park. I didn't have a phone, thankfully, and there were plants, you know, around the park. But I was sitting like on like, sort of like a cliff, where I was overlooking a lot of nature. So the park is like on a, you know, mountainous area. So I was, you know, sitting and just watching over the area, and there are like all these trees and all of this nature, and I just started having questions, and I was like, what created all of this? Where did all of this come from? And I was just sitting there, really just trying to come up. I'm sorry about that. I just thought there was someone knocking. But I was, you know, just trying to come up with like answers to um, these things, and I was trying to understand uh, where all these things come from. I'm sorry. Let me just pause for a second.